Building an audience is hard, whether you're an individual or a business. And I've seen people make every mistake in the book, whether it's chasing trends, following metrics that don't matter, or quitting after a few months. But creating content can literally change your life or your career if you stick with it and do it the right way. I've built an audience of 700,000 followers across social platforms, some of which have turned into coworkers, colleagues, and co-founders. And every time I am asked how I did it, I always share my 4-step playbook. So I promise you, by the end of this video, not only will you leave believing in the power of building an audience, but you'll also have a fully fledged playbook to execute on your content strategy when you're done watching, and you may even have your first piece of content. Here's how to build your mini empire on the internet. This video is sponsored by Walmart Business, but more on them in a little bit. It's time to head into Brew HQ. Let's keep it going there. Every great content strategy starts with the who. Who are you creating content for? And if you look at the best creators on the internet, all of them are so crystal clear about who their one person that they're writing or videoing for is. I like to call this the market of one. Every great creator should have their market of one, the one person that they are creating the vast majority of their content for. And your market of one should literally be a real person, and it should be as specific as humanly possible. So specific that you could literally bring up their LinkedIn, you could print it out, and you could put it on your wall. So every time you create a piece of content, you have them in mind, and if your content's gonna be valuable for them. As I think about my market of one, it is Kip Bodnar, the CMO of HubSpot. Kip is an amazing marketer, and his goal is to constantly keep his finger on the pulse of the future of his industry and where marketing is going from here. And so I know when I'm creating content, if I can make Kip better at his job and help him understand the future of marketing, I'm accomplishing my job as a creator. So very simply, figure out who your market of one is and stay incredibly disciplined to creating for that person. So now you know who you're creating content for with your market of one, and the next step is about figuring out where you're actually going to create content. And the way that I think about where to create content is with something that I call the audience funnel. And the audience funnel, very simply, has 3 types of audiences: rented audience, owned audience, and monetized audience. We're gonna go through each of them, but I wanna start by saying there isn't a right or wrong type of audience to build. There are simply trade-offs. A rented audience is one that you typically build on a social platform. Think Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. And the benefit of building a rented audience is that these platforms have access to hundreds of millions, if not billions of people, and there is shareability built into the platforms, so growing quickly is simply easier. Now, the big trade-off of building a rented audience is you do not own the relationship with the person consuming your content. The platform or these algorithms do. And what that means is one day, Twitter or LinkedIn or YouTube could just change their algorithm, and you could no longer be able to get in front of this person that you've worked really hard to create content for. So that's rented audience. Now let's move on to owned audience. There are 3 types of owned audience: email newsletters, podcasts, and digital communities. Think Slack communities or other places where you can build a digital audience. The main benefit of an owned audience is you actually own the relationship with the person consuming your content. So when you create an email newsletter, you know your subscriber is going to get the newsletter. When you create a podcast, you know it's gonna land in the feed of your listener. The major trade-off of an owned audience is that it is just harder to grow. You don't have the virality or the shareability of a social platform, so it just takes more time. It looks more like linear growth than exponential growth. So to give you an example, for Morning Brew, we just focused on creating a daily newsletter for 5 years, and it took us 5 years to get to 1 million subscribers. So that's owned audience. And then finally, there's monetized audience. And very simply, a monetized audience is where you are taking your highest intent, most passionate consumers of your content, and you're actually monetizing them directly. You're charging them for something. And that could be via subscription, could be membership, courses, merch, other products, etc. So this is the audience funnel. And of course, the question you're asking yourself is, okay, Alex, but what audiences should I actually focus on? How many platforms? And should I focus on owned or rented? I generally have a rule of 1 and 1. You should focus on 1 rented audience and 1 owned audience. And the reason I say that is by focusing on a rented audience, you get the virality and the large top of funnel of social platforms. But by focusing on an owned audience, you actually have ownership over the people who consume your content. And so you can push people from your large top of funnel, which is your rented audience, down into your owned audience. As I think about what platforms make sense for you, there's a few things I'd keep in mind. First, you should think about what are the types of content you enjoy creating most. Do you like creating text-based content, or do you enjoy creating audio or multimedia content? The second thing to think about is, where is your market of one already consuming content? Because you don't want to change the behavior of the person you are creating your content for. So use me as an example. My rented audience that I focus on is LinkedIn, and my owned audience that I focus on is email. And there are a few reasons that I focus on that. First, I focus on 2 text-based platforms because converting people from LinkedIn to email is a lot easier than, say, converting people from LinkedIn to YouTube. The second is because I enjoy writing and I enjoy communicating ideas and storytelling with the written word. So it's just a platform that gives me energy. And the third is my market of one. Remember Kip Bodnar, the CMO of HubSpot? Those are places where I already know that he's consuming content. He's going on LinkedIn while he's at work. He's reading email newsletters when he's commuting to and coming home from work. And so I don't want to change Kip's behavior at all. In short, as you think about what audiences you want to focus on, keep 2 things in mind. First, what type of content gives you the most energy to create? And second, where is your market of one already consuming their content? So we've talked about who you're creating content for, where you're actually going to create content on the internet, and now it's about figuring out what topics are you going to actually focus your content on. And the best way to do that is through a tool that I call the Zone of Genius. And by basically figuring out the intersection of what you know or what you want to learn about, what gives you energy to talk about, and what your audience or your market of one is looking for, you find your content sweet spot. And by finding your content sweet spot, you figure out the 1 to 3 topics that are known as your content pillars. And these are the topics that you're gonna focus the vast majority of your content creation on. Now let's use me as an example. We're gonna use the Zone of Genius to figure out my content sweet spot, so I know what 1 or 2 topics I wanna focus on to create for my market of one. Starting at the top, what do I know? So there are 5 or 6 topics that I feel like I have some level of authority to create content around. Now, even if you're not an expert, that's totally fine. You can pick topics that you simply just wanna learn a lot about, and you're gonna create content as you learn about them. For me, there are 5 or 6 things: the creator economy, audience building, bootstrapping, mental health, navigating grief, and of course, Legos. So those are the topics that I know a good amount about. Moving on to the second circle, what gives me energy? These are the topics that I enjoy creating content about. And as you can tell, the list is shorter because there are things I know a good amount about, but I don't actually derive a lot of happiness from writing or creating content about them. For me, the 3 are creator economy, audience building, and Legos. Lego stays in. And then finally, the last circle is all about my market of one, and specifically what Kip Bodnar, the CMO of HubSpot, cares about consuming a lot of content about. For him, it's artificial intelligence. I know he's super interested right now in how AI is impacting marketing, audience building, the creator economy, demand gen, and ad creative. And then finally, we look at the intersection of this circle, and what you get are the topics I know a lot about that give me a lot of energy and that Kip Bodnar is looking for content on. My 2 topics in my content pillars are the creator economy and audience building. And so by going through the Zone of Genius, I've been able to narrow down to creator economy and audience building as my 2 topics that sit within my content sweet spot. So the final part of your content strategy is figuring out what are your posts actually going to be about. And I think the best, most natural way to answer that question is simply by answering interesting prompts related to your content pillars. So I'll give you a few examples. What is X, X being your content pillar, going to look like 5 years from now? Or what is one overrated and one underrated opinion you have about X? Or who are the best people to follow in X and why are they the best people to follow? So in my example, let's say I'm talking about the creator economy, it would look like, what does the future of the creator economy look like 5 years from now? And so that is how I think about all of my content creation, is giving myself interesting prompts and my answers turn into my posts. Let's finish this up with you actually creating your first piece of content. So here's what you're gonna do. I'm gonna share a prompt with you. You're gonna think about it, and then we're gonna talk about how you turn your answer into a post. The prompt is, what are your 3 strongest opinions about X? And X is your content pillar. So think about it, and then I just want you to go to your phone, go to the voice memo or recorder app, and start recording your answer. Whether it takes 30 seconds or 3 minutes, keep recording. Once you're done, upload your recording to your computer to one of the many free transcription apps that exist. I use Otter, but there are a bunch that you can use. Once you've transcribed your recording, literally spend 15 minutes to edit it and clean it up, and then fire off your post. And now you can take this exact process and apply it to your entire content strategy over the course of a year or many years. So here's what you can do moving forward. Once a week, you're gonna pick a 60-minute block, decide on 3 questions or prompts that you're gonna answer around your content pillar. Think about it, hit record, go and auto-transcribe it, edit the posts and clean them up, and then you have 3 great high-quality posts that are for your market of one that you can post each week. That comes out to 150 posts per year, which is significantly more content than 99% of the internet creates. This stacks the deck in your favor so much when it comes to executing successfully on your content strategy. That is your content strategy in a nutshell. It's about who you're creating content for using your market of one. It's about figuring out where you're gonna create content using the audience funnel. It's about figuring out what are the 1 or 2 topics you're gonna focus all your energy on using the zone of genius. And finally, it's about figuring out what you're actually gonna post about by deciding on high quality questions and prompts to answer. That's it. That is how you build your mini content empire on the internet. So get going with it, start creating content, and make sure to tag me so I can give you some love on the internet. When you've got a monumental to-do list to complete for your business, making a bunch of stops for the right office supplies drains your time and your energy. That's why you need a one-stop shop for everything, whether it's new laptops or a selection of dairy options for your team's morning coffee. The good news, that's what Walmart Business was made for. They've got low prices and bulk quantities on things like office supplies, grocery, tech, you name it. You can choose between shipping, delivery, or pickup as fast as same day because flexibility is the name of the game. It's the Walmart you love now for your business. Learn more at business.walmart.com. That's business.walmart.com.